Good afternoon, everybody, and it's Lily here from Heal Scotland and Scotland's Wild Medicine. And I've got with me today doctors Suzy and Chris Peach. Hi, guys, how you doing?
Hello,
Hi.
doing good, thanks.
Yeah, we're well, thank you.
Yes, so I was so excited. I met Chris first at the Wild Food Festival, and we were just like, you just get that connection where you're so aligned on what you can see for our country. And you guys have set up an incredible wellness academy. And I was just saying, I love it. It said most teens don't get the health and well-being information they need, and we're changing that. That is succinct, clear, straight to the point. So let's start with, like, I think that you're both GPs. So do you want to just start up with that, and then how you got to this place where you're creating this incredible platform?
Sure, yeah. I'll probably start then.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it
I
makes
think
most
it
sense.
makes more sense, yeah.
I first came up with this idea probably about 8 years or so ago now. And it started off as me sitting in practice on a day-to-day basis, realizing that young people just had a lot of misinformation and incorrect information about health, quite bizarre ideas at times. And I also realized that I was seeing a lot of young people, disproportionately so, because they're not the sickest group of society.
Yes.
But they were coming in with a lot of anxieties about their health and a lot of incorrect information. So the idea really started that it would be wonderful if we could go into schools and try and change the education or be a part of the education that they receive through their school years. And it's evolved since then because we want to make maximum impact, basically. And young people live in the digital world and we have to play where they live. So we have now moved and created and iterated many times what we're offering. And we now offer a digital bank that's basically there for them whenever they need it.
Yeah.
I'll let you take it further from there, but that's how it started, really. It was just from our experience and frustrations and day-to-day work.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective, so I'm not, you've forgotten, Lily, but I'm not a GP. I'm from occupational health or occupational medicine background. So it's kind of like a GP, but more specialist to do with employment. And I saw it, from a different angle. I see a slightly older group, but anything from apprentices, right, down at age 16 and up. And I started similarly as Suzy, seeing the same problems, again, preventable issues that we could, with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of awareness, self-awareness, these could have been prevented, through their own decision making, had they had the knowledge at that time. And we know as doctors, it's well documented that early intervention works. That's where really preventative health promotion and health preventative action comes in the earliest possible stage. And when they're seeing us, the problem's already happened and we can help fix, but we're doing it on a one-to-one level. And we realize that actually a lot of this can be done by the individual. So let's help them do that. Let's enable them, let's empower them, and at the earliest possible stage. And we sort of recognize that, our teenage years are some of the most formative. The learning curve is huge, learning about what it is you want to be, who you are, becoming an adult, going into the big bad wide world and TV, away from the support of a parent or a guardian. So we knew that's where we needed to start first. Of course, early as possible, but that's where we needed to start first. So we come up with this idea to digitize what was originally Suzy's idea about teaching and simple foundational knowledge. This is not rocket science. This is this is simple foundational things about health, and that we should all learn. And if we've been lucky enough to have informed parents and guardians looking after us, we've had this wisdom passed down, or some of it, but we don't all get it all. We have to make our mistakes and we have to learn. So we're trying to bridge that gap. We're trying to bring it in and level it up for people who have really had none at all. Just some who've had some, but it's maybe not quite right, and just try and balance the scales across the whole of our community. Because only as a community can we truly help each other, when we really understand each other, we have the same information, the right knowledge, that we really work as a team. That powering up effect starts to work. So that's the sort of underlying ethos of why we're doing this. And as Suzy mentioned, they're all in the digital space now. So, the irony is that we're creating a digital resource, and within it we're saying, don't be on these kind of devices too much, but we can't do it from a soapbox in the middle of the street. You have to reach the people, you have to be on these platforms across social media. So that's why we've embraced it, to bring this resource to them. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have to embrace it where they're at, because then if you don't, then you've got two obstacles to overcome. How are you going to get their attention? It's crazy. And I like what you said there, Suzy, about the idea being around for 8 years. I think, we've all been watching, and you guys are obviously, you're in the profession of looking and caring for people and trying to help them, but you also have 2 kids of your own, which I think is possibly the that should be in your CV first. I always think, because that's where you learn, like, right on your feet, isn't it? And that's when you start to think, right, there's a huge gap here. That's why I was so excited at what you're doing, because from a Heal Scotland perspective, there's so many things that we need to address. So if we can all come together with our idea and then collaborate, then we're going to obviously make a far, far bigger and a far more fun impact.
Absolutely.
And what you were saying there, Chris, about prevention, and let's face it, I include myself in this. Usually wait. You think, I should really do this, and then you don't, and then eventually you have to. And I always say it's a bit like losing weight. It's much easier to lose 2 or 3 pounds than it is to lose 2 or 3 stone, than it is to lose 10 stone. And it's the same thing, isn't it? The body comes knocking. We know our teenagers are anxious. They're not going to school. Depression's a thing, anxiety, suicide. And I mean, it's just like, what? So it's really phenomenal what you're doing. So can you explain, first of all, how are you going to get this to the people that need it? I said to Chris when I met him at first, I said, all my tribe are waiting for something like this. So who do you see as your sort of, I mean, I know it's teenagers and that kind of age, and I think as well, we all need to be resilient. This kind of mamby-pamby, it's like there's a little bit of that's just gone too far. It's like, no, come on, guys, you're strong. Sure. You're intelligent, and we need to make them. So who you talk to the parents here?
Yeah, and I think that's the point. I mean, obviously the initial idea was, let's go to schools, because we want to make a change on a huge level, and that's kind of how you do it, isn't it? You interrupt it, you get it into education. But that's not just because your kid's school doesn't have it means that you shouldn't be allowed to get it for your kids. So we've also made it available for parents and individuals, and that's really important, because what's happening with a lot of families is the kids and the parents, especially once phones get introduced, often there's less communication happens. And in the teenage years, less communication happens anyway, because evolutionarily it's normal to try and step away from your parents and to look for other voices. And that's okay, and that's healthy. But we want to make sure they're getting the right voices. So with an individual login, you have teenager has a login and the parent has a login, and they can see the same content. So they can both upskill their knowledge at the same time, therefore allowing them to have better conversations as a family. There's information here. I mean, this isn't just Chris and I's knowledge that's built this. We have 30 experts of various different specialties within health and wellbeing who've contributed to this. As we've moved along, there's things that I've been filming with experts that, I found out information that I didn't know. So there's definitely information there that's, the principles are basic, but there's something for everyone to learn. So the parents hopefully will learn from this too, which is only going to help their own child. And that was really important for us, just to make sure that we're trying to promote more real, open, honest conversation.
Yeah, and I think there's a point there about the simplicity, the way we're putting it. What's really different, and sort of we're trying to revolutionize the way that this information is taught. Historically, it's not been done very well, or it's varying degrees of effectiveness in schools or in environments. And now we're at a time of connectivity where there's so much out there. There's the misinformation. There's too much. There's the misinformation, which is sometimes facts that have been incorrectly interpreted and then spread around and used wrongly or used out of context. There's a simple disinformation, which is just wrong. Somebody's doing it for whatever reason, for their own gain or for just to disrupt. So we want to try and cut through that and be that counterbalance, that sort of factual, reliable information, and this is from all our experts, distilled right down into here's the practical, life important knowledge about this topic that you should be aware of. And we're not, in this platform, we're not telling people how to live. We're just saying these are the things you need to think about. This is the correct information. This is what you should, take on board and consider before you make your decisions. So we're about empowering, we're about enabling, and allowing people to find that their own opinions, to look inwards rather than just simply absorb what they're finding online. And so it's really important about not just giving the foundations and the facts, but helping them to appraise the information they're looking at, helping them to find and explore their own opinions and talk to other people. That's why our community forum is so important, because there's not, and often in many situations, there's not one right answer. It's different perspective. It's about different people have different truths, but we want to give them, the broad range, so that they can then help to make and come up with their own ideas about how they should progress, how they should make their own decisions, how they should, what their lifestyle should be like. And so community, building that community of discussion, breaking down the barriers of these historically taboo subjects or sensitive subjects that we don't like to talk about as a society for one reason or another. But we know that by talking about them helps. It helps to spread the load. It helps to make it normal. Oh, you're having these feelings. I'm also having these feelings. Okay, so I am normal. That kind of concept.
The other thing that's really important here is that there's a huge amount of distrust from young people towards healthcare professionals at the moment. And young people they do trust influencers on social media significantly more, which is just crazy. But so we're kind of trying to play in that area actually, and be that trusted resource among it all. But that is why the way that we designed the content had to be familiar to them. So 95% of the content is video-based conversation, either between an expert and someone who's had lived experience. So that's really important to us, to feature people that have been through real struggles or difficulties and come through it, tell their stories, make it real, or the experts themselves. And even when we film with the experts for the educational videos, it's very informal. It's usually in someone's home. They're having a chat, they're talking about it in an informal way, in a fun way that helps engage young people so that they don't feel like they're being lectured at, because we really don't want to do that. It is, like you said, it really is about promoting personal choice and inward reflection. Listen to your intuition, listen to your body. Stop going with what is being told you should be a particular way because of what you're seeing in social media. Who are you? What are your values? What are you feeling? What matters to you? And critically appraise every piece of information you come across otherwise.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
And absolutely, because I think what happened was people started to move away from the more kind of, I don't want to take antibiotics, say as an example, but then they're just like that, well, I'll just take vitamin C and vitamin D, and it's as if that's going to make everything all right. And it's like, no, we're a kind of energy system, an energy and ecosystem that requires a lot of complex understanding to really be as well as we can be. And a huge part of that's our relationships within our own family. And we know, that blended families are a thing, and kids are growing up without that one parent, or sometimes without either parent. So and like you were saying there, we have to, this is what we've got, how do we make the most of that and really address these issues head on? Now, so tell people about the cost and how it works. If I'm like that, this sounds amazing. Every parent that'll be listening to that will be thinking that exact same thing. So tell them about the cost, because I thought to myself, how affordable is this going to be for most people? I was absolutely blown away. So tell them.
Yeah, so we've just actually revised it to make it actually even fairer across the board. So it's we have different models, as you said. One is the school model. So the school as an organization would sign up their cohort of students. So there's a price per head for students, and that's, so the first 500, for instance, would be, it's around £7.50 a head, essentially. And then after that, additional students, the price goes down. So from 501 up to 1,000, it would be equivalent to £5 per head. And then when they go over schools where you have over 1,000 students, the price goes down again. So it goes down to £2.50 per head. And then obviously there's VAT on top of that, but that's the equivalent. So we wanted to make it more fair across. There's a big range of school sizes, from schools who have under 100 pupils to schools who have 1,500. So we wanted to make sure that it was fairer for that, and you're not being penalised one way or the other. It's still, we have to have a minimum pricing, but that's a year. So they're getting all this resource from the experts across all these specialties per year as a subscription cost, of which they can access the content whenever they like, 24/7, all the time. And that's just the platform, if you like. We're going to be launching additional features that come with it. So we mentioned the community forum that where they can sort of come on and talk about these subjects. There'll be spaces either for the school or as an individual for their age group to talk to like-minded people across the world, globally, who are going through the same thing. So there's that. And there'll be another exciting feature, which I'm not going to let go yet. We're going to tell people about that a little bit later. So we're going to hold that back. But that's for the school subscription. And then as an individual, we mentioned you can sign up your child. So the simple login would be a parent or a child over 16 who's got bank details would sign up to it. The parent, when they sign up, they will get a login for their child. So they designate the child that they want to have the login, but the parent also gets a ability to access it. So that's $29.99 per year. And then if the parent wanted to had another child within that age range of secondary school, so 11 plus to 18, and they wanted a second child to have access, they would get that. They would get £10 off. So they would get that at, for instance, $19.99 for that child. And then if they had a third child, they would get another £10 off. So it would be $9.99. So we're trying to make it that it's accessible to everyone. We make a fair pricing range. There's obviously a minimum to achieve our costs and our overheads, but we want to try and get this to as many people as possible. So we're trying to make it a no-brainer for people, essentially.
Yes, and let's make that clear. That's an annual subscription.
Yes.
Which is a phenomenal deal. And I really, truly do believe that anybody that really wants to access this for themselves and their kids can afford that. You're not really excluding anybody there. And amazing for the kids. So think about it. So there's maybe people like me that be quite interested in getting that for my grandkids. But we're targeting, is it really mainly high school or late primary?
What we've produced just now is most appropriate for high school and actually young adults, to be honest. We thought initially just high school, but when we've been out and about doing our trials with schools or filming content with people, I've filmed content with lived experience people who have been in their early 30s that have asked me if they can have this for themselves because it is appealing to young adults too. And actually, like we say, most of it is relevant to absolutely everyone because these health issues happen to everyone. It's just that we focused initially on secondary schools. I don't think this content is appropriate for primary school age children yet. It's very close, but I think they just need a little bit more hand holding through some of it. Some of it's quite complex, and obviously we do talk about contraception, different types of sex. We talk about self-harm and suicide in there in a very careful way that's been delivered with CAMS consultants, but it is spoken about, and I think not quite yet. This product isn't ready for that age range. However, it's very easy for us to adapt, and that is in the pipeline for the future. Yeah. I mean, initially we see this group, the teens, being that sort of most vulnerable at this point in time because there's so much change. That learning curve is so steep, and there's so much coming that way. They're gaining more independence, so that their vulnerability to that information and that overload, and then making decisions that could have lifelong impact, is greatest we see in that group right now. So that's why as a first product, we wanted to get it out there to them. But yes, absolutely. Back to that theory, which is well known, which is early intervention works. We'd want to go as early as possible, but we need to be a slightly different design for the primary school product. So that will come. It will come in time. But this is where we just want to get this out, get it seen, get it known, get it used and valued, and for people to see the benefit and tell their story. So that's what's important about this. But as Suzy said, everybody will stand to benefit from this information. So this program alone, although it's targeted at teens, the parents will definitely learn something, and they will.
And the other thing I find is quite often you're just reminding people. Most of us know roughly what we should be doing, but you start off, you get all excited and you do it, and then you stop. So I think the idea that I think there's two things, that the sort of engagement via games, but also I think just the privacy of being able to work through that in your own time. And then, you know, as they become more confident and start to feel better, then you're going to create these online communities, which is a no-brainer. All the kids, my grandson comes down here, he knows kids from all over the area because of Snapchat and, you know. So it's much as we like to bash it a lot of the time because it's got, you know, like they're kind of they've got their face in there so much. There's a lot of great things that have come out of it as well. And it's just everything else. We need to learn how to manage it, don't we, really?
Yeah, it's not going away. So it's how you can best use it. And I think the thing that is different about our content that I really, really want to point out here is, you've said it's proactive, but what we mean by that is we go right back to the basics with how your mind and your body works and how that interacts with the environment and your relationships. You know, you're much more likely to do the things that are good for you, i.e. eat well, exercise, everything that we normally keep going on about, if you understand on a science level what is happening in your body. So breathing exercise, for example, you know, we talk a lot about the stress response and how it's normal and what hormones drive it and what your neurological system does. And we talk about the opposite of that. When you deep breathe, this is what happens to your autonomic nervous system. This is why it works. Because if you understand, you're more likely to make the correct choice rather than just being told. Everyone knows, right? If anyone in the street, you can stop and say, you know, what's healthy? And they'd be like, oh, exercise and eating fruit and vegetables. Do they know why? And that's really what the difference is with us, I'd say. Give them as much information as possible, then they're more likely to make better choices.
Absolutely, because you know yourself, it kind of, the penny drops and you're like, right, okay. Because I used to say that, you know, especially with teenagers, link it to sport, link it to football, link it to surfing, whatever it is that they're doing, and how much better you're going to be if you're hydrated, if you're well nourished, if you're relaxed, you know, all of that stuff. And it's well documented, and that's, I keep saying that all the time. There's so much information, but we're not using it. Because, you know, and getting into schools, I think it's great the way you're doing it, because it's difficult. I've been in the local schools here because I come from a family of teachers, and I feel sorry for the teachers.
I know.
I don't think of anything worse than getting locked in a classroom all day with kids. But, you know, and the stress and the expectations. So to try and put something extra in, you know, it's just, they're already maxed out with all the...
They are. And that's been a huge part about why we've designed it to be self-directed, because there are resources there that can help with people well-being, or even in PSHE or PSE as it is in Scotland. You know, each school is supposed to teach on these topics, but historically and usually it's given to a teacher who's already teaching another subject, who's already under pressure, has to deliver PSE that year, is scrambling for resources, has to then teach themselves the resource to then deliver it. And these topics are difficult to talk about, you know, and what we've done is we've packaged it and we've said, here it is, here's how it aligns with your curriculum, just let them go. And they then don't have to learn the material to teach on it. They can ping it up in the smartboard if they want, they can set it as homework if they want. They can, and what we've done, if schools want to be more involved with that, is we've produced accompanying lesson guides so that they can see, right, okay, I'll send my kids off and I'll get them to do this particular module on vaping. And when you come back, we've given them 4 or 5 suggested activities as to how to further embed and develop that discussion and learning within the classroom that ties in with our module already. So we're trying to give them something that really doesn't give them more work, because they're already under incredible amounts of pressure.
It's just a support, isn't it? It's a brilliant support about the subjects that are really key and important. I remember I years ago went to a school in Dunoon to teach them about juicing. I think it was second year, so they're like 13 kind of age. And after lunchtime, I went into this other class, and this young boy was manic. And I said, what did you just have for your lunch? And he said something like 2 Mars bars, a can of Coke, a can of Iron Brew. I mean, I thought he was winding me up. He wasn't.
No.
That's what he'd eaten. And I was kind of like, You just should not be getting into a class with a teacher. How are you meant to teach somebody? And my
I
son's
know.
like, oh, did you think they were just going to sit and listen to you? I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I did. It's a really interesting subject. But
Yeah.
that's what
They just don't. I know. I loved it when we did our trials. We did trials in 4 schools across Scotland, all quite different, and all different age groups it was trialled with. And I remember they'd come in, the group of students would come in, I'd have a different one every period, and they would usually come in with egos and, oh, what the hell is this is rubbish, and the usual. But then I loved getting them all logged in, and within 5 minutes, just looking around the room, complete silence, because they were hooked. And I was like, yes, we did it. And it was usually the real stories, the real lived experience stories, because you can't deny that's someone's real experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's got to be relatable. That's the thing, and we know stories work, right? They engage us and we can resonate. And I used to work with recovering heroin addicts, and I remember asking one of the boys, I said, do you think you really can help if you've never been a heroin addict? And he said, well, there are some people that can do it. He said, but mainly most people can't, because you don't have the same, the same story. And that's exactly what people do. Like, well, and that's when you can go, right, okay, if they can do that, that's when you get that inspiration inside to go, right, maybe I could do it, because it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about the belief.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's a very good point, Lilia. It's about that experience, talking from experience. And society as a whole now, from when we were kids, which a decent amount of time ago, but the world is changing so fast, and we've talked about this, haven't we, with many people, where the understanding now is that we are ill-equipped. We will always be ill-equipped to teach our children, because change is so great. So even if things slowed right down, things do progress, and it looks different to a youngster as it did to us when we were, even 5 years ago. So to wait with the rapid rate of change now in society and technology, and where people are living their lives in the digital domain, we are truly, up the creek, as it were, because we don't really know how, because we've not experienced it. So much has moved on, so much has changed. We just didn't go through that. We went through it in a different way when we were younger. So we're trying to, we're all trying to find a way through this, and how to most appropriately support young people with these challenges that are going to keep on changing. And we have to be with that change. We have to ride the crest of that change.
As every generation has changed from the one before, but this generation is completely different. I mean, this is exponential change in the way that we live our lives, and it's harder for them in many respects. I mean, a lot of people joke about the younger generations not having it as, we had it harder, we had the war and whatever else, but they're dealing with a lot. They're exposed to incredibly addictive devices that feed them vast amounts of information that make their brains inattentive, and they're exposed to so much more cyberbullying than ever before. Traditionally you might be bullied at school, but you could come home and you'd be safe. You're never safe. That's 24/7. It's there.
There's nowhere to hide.
There is nowhere to hide them. And not only that, they're exposed to really bad news a lot. Things that are going on in the world that actually us as kids probably would have been sheltered from. And they're having to emotionally regulate and be resilient in that way. So they're having to develop totally different types of resilience. We might have been more resilient on the street playing Kirby, but they're more resilient. They're having to be more resilient at an earlier age to information overload. And that is a real worry for them. And once I realized that recently, I was much more sympathetic for that generation, because I can get it more. I'll never be able to live in their shoes. I don't know what it's like to grow up with these devices and this amount of pressure, but we need to recognise that pressure absolutely is there for young people.
And it's not just about
the amount of information. I think we underestimate how stressful, and the amount of choice. Because just constantly having to make choices is, because I was talking to my grandson about, he's 17, and I said, when I left school, you looked out in your local village and you thought, well, what job is there? That's how you did it. And my mum was a hairdresser, and I thought, I'll just do that. You didn't sit and think about your heart's desire and you just did what was in front of you.
Chastise yourself because you can't keep up with whatever you've seen on social media that your heart desire is.
Yeah.
Because actually you're comparing yourself to so much more people, so you're less happy.
Yeah.
You know, there's so
life
much psychology
can be
behind
mundane.
this.
You know, there is things that we just need, and I think that's the other thing, isn't it? It's not every minute of every day has got to be in, you know, this phenomenal ecstatic state. So
No.
Yeah, and that's a good point I was just about to make about the, you know, that the opportunity, the information, you know, it's forcing young people to grow up a lot faster, and you know, it's already a difficult enough task trying to, you know, understand what your opinions are, what your beliefs are, and then you're getting sort of force fed all this information online, you know, straight into your brain, and you're trying to, you know, it's a minefield of trying to decipher what's right, what do I believe. Do I just believe that person with 15,000 likes and because they look good and, you know, they've got the Instagram lifestyle, and you know, when we know that's not reality anyway. But when you're that age, everything is very important: how you look, how you behave, who your friends are, you know. So it's so much more difficult, I think, to grow up as a teenager now because of that. And there's the other part, you know, the advertising, the gaming, you know, you talked about that young lad with 2 Mars bars and 2 cans of juice, you know. They'll be subconsciously programmed with a lot more advertising, you know, energy drinks, etc., you know, and no wonder they don't learn. No, they don't know how to learn, because they just see this as normal behavior, almost subconsciously, you know, and that's what's really tricky. So you've got to try and interrupt that. That's not going to stop. They're still going to see this stuff. They're still going to get that sort of subconscious programming. So we're trying to be that counterbalance. We're trying to offer, look, here's a balanced view of things, and you know, make your decisions accordingly. But you know, help to do the basics, because when you understand the basics, you go, okay, yeah, no wonder I was fidgeting in my seat, and no, I don't have ADHD. I'm just wired on sugar and caffeine. When you know, if I could just cut that back, I'll be all right. I can have a few moments of restful thoughts, and you know, and then we introduce all the other stuff, which, you know, you and I and Suzy certainly align with, about the inward journey, the how to balance, how to live in harmony with the world that we live in, you know, the power of nature, getting outside, you know, looking at natural ways of living instead of hyper, you know, processed foods and situations, and you know, to try and allow yourself to appreciate the value and the benefits of, you know, the natural world. And so it's, you know, that's why we're covering so much. You know, this is not a simple answer, as you said earlier.
No.
You know, we all have to come at it with our different areas, but we are complex beings, and you know, we in the medical world, we know there's a sort of scientific model that's talked about, used a lot, something called the biopsychosocial model of health, which sort of embodies that concept. You know, that there's multiple things, our environment, internally, externally, with our bodies and our minds, and which all contribute. And so if we can, you know, give them the factual information at this foundational level, which they can build on across the board, then, you know, then they'll build that stronger foundation from which to have, you know, run into less problems, make better decisions for themselves that are right for them, not right for somebody else. You know, that recognition of that, and that's a, you know, a process we all go through, but we're just trying to help them on that most difficult starting point. And yeah, that's why we've covered such. We took on a big task to cover a lot of material, but we know it was so necessary. There's lots of great resources out there that are very specialized, you know, straight into one thing, and that can be useful, but also lack of context around that means that, you know, it's difficult to place that, or to know if is this most important over this, you know. So we're trying to a balanced consideration of everything, you know.
And you know, young people are getting quite, they're either into like their targeted ads and making really bad lifestyle choices, but actually a lot of the wellness industry as well is really targeting people too, and people are becoming really hyper focused on certain foods, for example, and to the extreme, in the detriment of balance. You know, if it's just crazy, some of the stuff, isn't it? Like if you ever eat a donut, you'll die. Well, obviously I'm being extreme here, but you know, it's okay in balance, and we're constantly reiterating that through the program. Is everything is about balance. Exercise is great. Too much of it, not good. Too little of it, not good. You know, it's about finding the correct equilibrium.
Yeah.
People are actually stressing themselves out about their health. And it's like, just chill out and enjoy yourself. Go and have a glass of wine and laugh with your pals. It's okay. It's almost like every single thing that we enjoy there's a, don't do that, don't have that, don't have a coffee, don't have a case.
And you know what? That stops it. I saw a fantastic post from someone, because now I have to have a social media because I have to see what young people are into, which is annoying. I saw a post about someone where she'd taken a group, her kids and a group of their peers out for a birthday, and she brought out some snacks or something, and they had like vegetables and other bits and bobs and some crisps and something else. And one of the kids, 9 years old, said, "Are they healthy?" about the crisps. And she said, "Well, you tell me." And the kid said, "Well, my mum would say that's not a healthy food." And her argument was, "Well, does it make you feel good? Well, then it's healthy." You know, it doesn't have to just be the most nutritious thing always is the healthy choice. Health is over a prolonged period of time on balance. And that's important, because if you start feeling guilty about everything you're putting into your body and everything you're doing, that is absolutely not healthy psychologically. And then actually physically will become not healthy
that's
too.
What's happened with sugar. People are, and then you're psychologically, I shouldn't have it, but I want it, then I eat it, then I feel guilty. And it's like, it's a crazy, you know, situation.
This has been going on for a while though, Lilia, with diet culture. You know, they always talked about certain foods as, I mean, I'll not name any companies or anything, but foods as sins or as guilty things. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, no, why is a banana bad for you? Of course it isn't. Yes, it's got sugar in it, but it's natural sugar and your body can cope with that. If you're eating 10 bananas in a row, not great, but it is healthy, and it's healthy in different ways. It's got vitamins, it's got fiber. It's not all about the sugar context. And people seem to have forgotten that sugar is actually the one thing that our bodies really need.
And again,
whatever form that comes in.
It's that basic science, but again, you know, it's like, oh, I don't want to eat that. It's got sugar, and then it'll cause glucose spikes, and that's because of niche areas of social media where they're really focused on this concept. You know, I mean, people still can't get their head around diabetes, and yet now we're going into super science about, you know, glucose spikes, when really they don't even understand what the body does on a basic level. And, you know, pretty much everything is broken down from a carbohydrate level into a glucose molecule. It's necessary, it's needed, but it's about the balance, it's about the proportion. And that takes me back to that other point about lack of context, you know. So whereas some of this information might be factually correct on a certain level, out of context, you make different decisions, which then have a huge impact on your short and long-term health. So, you know, balance is a theme that runs through everything we do. And it's not about, you know, lecturing. It's not about do this and do that. You know, that's bad. This is good. It's about, look, this is the facts around. This is what we know from a science point of view. And we'll speak about what we don't know, what science doesn't understand. And then we just say, look, here's the things you need to consider when you make your decisions. And if you make this decision, this can have this consequence to you, this consequence. So it's balance is one of the underlying themes that runs through everything we do, and so important. And I know you know this. We've talked about this. You know, in this age of ever-changing, rapidly, you know, yo-yo fads and trends that go, you know, one way or the other because it got so many likes on, you know, TikTok or Instagram, or, you know, we want to try and get people to say, let's just stop and have a little think about this. What does this mean to me? You know, is this going to be helpful to me and to my health, my specific needs? And what are other people saying about it, and how do I praise that information? So just a lot of it's not just the health information, it's life skills about, you know, about how you navigate this really tricky space. And and
don't make your stress worse.
We've already the world is stressful enough without you adding to it yourself, and absolutely through knowledge, through understanding, you know, which together brings wisdom, you will have you feel more confident, more, you know, self-enabled, self-empowered to look at that and go, I like what you're saying, that makes sense to me, or no, I'm going to reject that because that's not for me, and I'm going to move on to something else. And that's what personal resilience bit is about. It's about building that to, you know, so that you can then apply it to any situation, to any, you know, information you see, any challenge you may face in the future. And that's all we want to do, really. That's the guts of it.
So the other exciting thing is, of course, that you guys are coming to the festival in Aberfeldy this weekend.
We are.
Yes.
Got some childcare.
So that's exciting. So for anybody, because let's just look at it now. So any head teachers that are watching this, they just get in touch with you directly. Is that the best way?
I would say just now the best thing to do is to go to our website, because the product we're going to launch in a couple of weeks' time. We're just making our final changes to it now. So on the website, they're able to sign up for the newsletter just now.
Yes, I
and
saw
if you
that.
sign up for the newsletter before we launch, then you get 15% discount. So we're keeping all those people aside to offer them a kind of special thank you. So that's probably the best way just now. If someone is on social media, we have every channel imaginable, so they can find us there to keep an eye on our journey too. So that's probably the best way, I'd say.
And then really, as soon as you launch, they just pay their whatever subscription is.
Well,
they actually,
I mean, it's entirely up to them. Everybody's will be at a different stage of understanding and, appreciation of what we're doing. For some, it's very easy decisions. So, they can see the value. Like, we've talked about it, you see it, you think, yeah, absolutely. And so there'll be a certain group who go, yeah, very happy and want to sign up straight away. But for those who are still on the fence or not sure or just need to find out more, they can sign up to what will be our free trial. And that's kind of like a freemium model. So you simply, without any payment details, you put in your email address and your name, and you'll be able to then get access to a limited number of modules. So it might be a few modules that shall have a limited, not all of the module, but some of the content. And that allows you to sort of try before you buy, so get in there, have a look. If there's any questions or worries about it, then, you can go and see for yourself and have a play around with it, or your child could go in and similarly log in and have a try of it and see if you like it. And and then within that, once you've registered, then you can simply, there's a button you'll be able to click to sign up to the full program. And then that gives you full access. So once you put in the payment details and the payment goes through. So that's sort of an individual level. For schools, they, the head teacher or the deputy, whoever's looking into this and, the budget holder wants to explore it, they could, again, similarly sign up for the freemium on their email address. And then when they want to convert, they can pick the B2B option, which is the business to business, where they have a different form that appears, and then they fill that out, all the details we require for their school cohorts, how many students, and with a bit of instruction how that process works. And they can either pay straight away, or they can use an invoicing process, depending on what their financial model works for them.
It doesn't have to be any teacher can sign up for a trial,
if
they just want to see what it's about and whether it's worth it, and whether it's the kind of resource that they want for their school. But
it's just to illustrate that there's two channels there. There's the parents or guardian individual channel, where they can simply, everybody will come into it through the free sort of trial, and then they can convert and sign up either their school, the whole school, they're happy, or their child, or just simply as an individual. So that allows them, and obviously that gets them onto our mailing list, so they can keep them up to date on any changes, developments, new releases, events, things like that we do. So
yeah, done anything on that tobacco craze? You put the snooze, it's called.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, and again, this is like a new craze that's appeared. And I remember it's
the same thing. It's the same science, though.
It's the same science,
but it's the same.
Absolutely.
So you remember I was in the military, in the army before becoming a doctor, and I remember in the Gurkhas they had this similar, it was Kindly or something, which is the same thing, little sachet of this highly potent, high concentration nicotine content that they used to poke up into their gums, and again, you're just immediately getting into a nicotine addiction. It obviously is a stimulant, so in the military environment, it used to help some people stay more alert, but then your body gets a tolerance to it, so then you need more, you're using more, and then all the gum problems that come with that, the gingivitis and cancer risk for mouth cancer, not understood at the time, but just thought it was cool and gave them some benefit at the time. So this has been around for years, but then it's just now become trendy again, and these things pop up.
Because when I lived in Malta, I had a lot of Scanda hooligan friends, and they all were into it. But I see now that it's really come here too. So that's just the way it's going to be. We're always looking for a way to get a buzz of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen. But the website, I haven't even said what the website is. Go to the website.
Yeah. So
I've posted it in the and I've posted it in the event. So I mean, it's completely genius and brilliant, and I know how hard you guys have worked on it, because over the last few months, I know the dedication you've put into it. well done. I am so delighted to see this coming in our country. But I mean, anybody all over the world can access this. It's
Yeah,
not just
absolutely.
That's the thing, because we want to, I mean, the passion is to help Scotland. That always has been. That's we're Scottish, we work, we live here. But this stuff is internationally relevant.
Absolutely.
So, and because it's digital, it can be available for anyone, anywhere.
Yeah. And the other thing that I like, having been a single parent myself, is that when your kids are young and they come home from school and it's dark, which is about to get, and unless you get a babysitter, you're in the house all night. So I think it's really great that there's things that are really powerful, practical, helpful that you can do in your house at night, when you don't have babysitters. Maybe you don't have money for babysitters, but that's something that's really be a lovely thing for you to learn, knowing that your kid's learning it and that you can support. And because I know my friend used to teach for Montessori, and she said it was the kids that came that had the Montessori home and the Montessori, the parents keep it all going.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's, that even in your own kind of quiet, subtle way, till these habits, get kind of ingrained and it starts to become a new way to be. So thank you for doing this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible journey. It's a lot of work. We've stepped out of our professions essentially, as doctors. I mean, we're still practicing at the moment, but we've had to step out and
so we'd say step back, not step out.
Not step out.
Realize you've gone.
No, we're not gone. We're not gone. We're still practicing. We're still practicing in our profession, but change our careers completely. Suzy gave up her GP practice, as a partner to really go into this. I've given up employment with, as an occupational health doctor, and we've moved into our, sort of contracting ourselves, and that's to simply, we knew we needed to give this everything and go for it.
And actually, can I add to that, that I loved my practice, still do, and I loved my job. There was nothing, a lot of people want to leave. That wasn't the case with me. It was, this passion and dream to make real change was what made us leave. And it was hard. It was heartbreaking. It was a very confusing time. But I believe in it, and I really believe that someone has to do this. So
it's become it's very clear there's a calling for us now to do this. This is
this is
what we have to do.
Totally.
It's coming through you. It has to be done, and you're the guys to do it. And it's because it's the same with me for Heal Scotland. I'm like, really, could have chosen something a wee bit easier. But it's like that's just the way it's meant to be. We came here arguably at this time to bring this to the world. So thank you. And I look forward to catching up with you.
We could have done this at a better time, like when we don't have two tiny people. But anyway.
There's never a right time when you've got kids.
No, you just got to do it.
I know, that's the thing, isn't it? It's but once it's launched, and you're going to get such great feedback so quickly. I mean, it's just brilliant. Absolutely.
The trial school feedback already has been brilliant. It's so it reminds you exactly why we're doing it. Some of the statements that people were giving us anonymously, so they could have said anything, were things like, I feel like we're being spoken to, not at. Someone thanked me for making something that really is for their generation. It was raw and real. It was, it was very. I mean, I was in tears when we got the feedback, wasn't I? Because I just thought, this is it.
And one of the teachers was saying, this is going to be a game changer, and we really hope that that's the case. We want to disrupt this. We need to make a bigger impact, a bigger difference. And so we're very passionate about it. We love it. We love being on this journey, as challenging as it is. But we're nearly there to getting out there, and we're really excited for everybody to start using and getting that feedback, as you say, Lilia, telling us how is it, how can we, is it good, can we make something better?
Is something rubbish? Do we need to change it?
Do we need to change it? Because that will be part of that.
Part of it.
It'll constantly evolve, won't it?
We've got ideas for everything to add in next year.
It's just I'm already like going, you need to get into the workplace now.
I know.
We've got to keep focused. I think
at the weekend we were saying we're probably obviously going to be speaking at the event, and I think we'd quite like to, if you think this is good, Lilia, to talk about the changing generations and the effects of digital technology on minds, especially young minds. Because I think it's really relevant, and it would be helpful for people to understand the science behind what goes on hormonally at a cellular level when you're using a lot of tech.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The digital addiction, if you like,
Yeah.
the society is facing, and that's going to be the focus, I think, for what we chat
And
about.
people will get to meet you personally, because that's what I find, when they, what is Heal Scotland? What is Peach Wellness Academy? It's when people actually meet you and they can feel the passion. They know that we all know change is not just necessary, it's critically essential at this time because of the way people's health is going. So, and people can feel that from you, and they'll get to chat and ask all the questions that they need. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we look forward to it.
Amazing weekend. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having us on.
Any questions, go onto the website. I've posted it in there. Sign up for the newsletter and keep up to date, and then you'll be able to check in for your free trial.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And there's an FAQ page as well, so they can hopefully answer any questions they have. We'll keep adding to that. So so we look forward to seeing you at the weekend.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right.